5 outboard engines to never buy and 3 that are actually worth it. 5 outboard engines that mechanics and owners keep warning people about, and 3 that consistently earn their price. Not based on marketing or which dealer pushes hardest. Based on what shows up in repair shops, recall notices, and the honest opinions of people who work on these engines every day. Number 5 on the avoid list, the early Mercury Verado V12. This one's not speculation, it's documented. When Mercury released the 600 horsepower V12 in 2021, it shipped with a steering position sensor that communicated constantly with the engine's control computer. When that sensor signal dropped, even for a moment, the engine assumed it had lost steering and dropped into a restricted safety mode. In the real world, that meant some owners lost steering authority or throttle response with no warning, sometimes far from the dock. Mercury issued a voluntary recall in Australia and the United Kingdom to replace the sensors and update the software. Repair bills for owners outside the recall window reportedly ranged from $7,000 for sensor replacement up to $73,000 for a full engine replacement in the worst cases. The engineering behind the V12 is genuinely impressive. The early production run is where the documented problems sit. Number 4. The Evinrude E-Tech G2 line. This one's a cautionary tale about timing more than raw engineering. Evinrude built genuinely innovative direct injection, 2-stroke technology that ran cleaner and lighter than a lot of 4-stroke competitors. But the entire marine industry was migrating toward 4 strokes at the time, and when Evinrude launched their G2 line, early production units reportedly had reliability issues that damaged the brand's reputation right as the company needed customer confidence the most. In May of 2020, Evinrude, the company that built the first commercially successful outboard motor back in 1909, shut down production permanently. Today, finding a mechanic who still services these engines is getting harder every year, and parts availability keeps shrinking. Even if the engine in front of you runs fine, the support system behind it is appearing. Number 3. Any used outboard under 60 horsepower wearing a badge. That is not what you think it is. Here is something most boat buyers do not know. Mercury does not actually manufacture their own small outboards. Engines under 60 horsepower wearing the Mercury name are built by a Japanese company called Tohatsu on the same assembly line, using the same components as the motors Tohatsu sells under its own name. The only meaningful difference is the price on the invoice and the decals on the cowling. This is not a knock on the engine itself. Tohatsu has built reliable motors since 1956. It is a warning about paying a brand markup for something you could buy directly for less. If you are shopping for a small kicker motor and you see a badge you do not recognize next to a much higher Mercury price tag for what looks like the same engine, that is worth a second look before you buy. Number 2. High horsepower outboards bought without checking the local dealer network first. This isn't about one specific engine, it's about a mistake that shows up across every brand. Multiple mechanics have pointed out that the most reliable outboard on paper becomes a liability if there's no qualified technician within a reasonable distance when something breaks. Specialized engines, especially big V8 and V10 platforms, often require proprietary diagnostic tools and factory training that only certain dealers have access to. One mechanic shared a story about switching his own boat from one brand to another, not because the engine he left was worse, but because there were no qualified technicians for high horsepower motors anywhere near his marina. The nearest certified shop was hours away. An engine with a slightly lower reliability rating, but a mechanic 5 minutes down the road, can serve you better than a theoretically superior engine that requires a multi-hour drive or a multi-week wait for warranty service every time something needs attention. Number 1 on the avoid list, any outboard purchased purely on horsepower numbers without considering total cost of ownership. This is the mistake that costs people the most money over time, and it applies across every single brand on the market. A water pump impeller replacement runs around $300 to $400 and needs doing roughly every 200 hours, or once a year, whichever comes first. an oil change on a mid-size outboard runs another $160 to $190 and should happen every 100 hours. A lower unit rebuild after hitting something in shallow water starts at $2,000 and can run as high as $8,000 on certain platforms, with some Mercury models reportedly running even higher, sometimes into the $12,000 to $15,000 range for the worst cases. None of that shows up on the sticker price at the dealership. One veteran mechanic put it simply, "People argue about which motor is fastest, when they should be arguing about which motor is cheapest to fix when something goes wrong, because something always eventually goes wrong." Buyers who only compare the number on the price tag are the ones who end up shocked 5 years later by what the engine actually cost them. Before we get to the 3 that earn their reputation, it's worth saying clearly that most outboard failures across every single brand on this list trace back to maintenance, not manufacturing. One mechanic with 3 decades of experience estimated that 70% of the catastrophic failures he sees in his shop could have been prevented with basic upkeep. Flushing the cooling system after saltwater use, changing fuel that's been sitting too long, not skipping the annual service because the engine still starts fine. Even a problematic engine can run for decades if it's maintained properly, and even the most reliable engine on this list will eventually fail if it's neglected. Keep that in mind as we go through the 3 that are actually worth your money. Now for the 3 that are actually worth it. Number 3. The Suzuki DF350. Released in 2017, this 4.4-liter V6, producing 350 horsepower, was the first production outboard to feature dual contra-rotating propellers, giving it noticeably better grip and control in rough water than a single prop setup. Multiple mechanics surveyed about their personal brand preference named Suzuki as a strong value pick, citing reasonable parts costs and a timing chain design rather than a timing belt, which means no belt replacement schedule to worry about. It's not the flashiest engine on this list, but it's repeatedly described by the people who service it as a motor that does its job without drama. Number 2. The Yamaha 4-stroke lineup. Broadly, when 20 marine mechanics with a combined 400 years of experience were asked what brand they'd buy with their own money, 13 out of 20 said Yamaha. That's 65% of experienced professionals pointing at one manufacturer. The reasoning centered on what one mechanic called the 1,000-hour margin, meaning a well-maintained Yamaha can run thousands of hours past, where certain competitors would already need a rebuild. Commercial operators, the people whose income depends entirely on their engine starting every single morning, have gravitated toward Yamaha for decades for exactly this reason. Number 1. The Honda BF350. Honda capped out at 250 horsepower for years, while Mercury and Yamaha owned the big boat conversation. That changed in 2023 when Honda released their first ever V8 outboard, borrowing variable valve timing technology directly from their automotive lineup. It runs on regular 86-octane fuel, delivers up to 70 amps of charging for boats running heavy electronics, and multiple mechanics specifically praised Honda's reputation for engines that simply don't fail. It's not the loudest engine at the marina, and it's not trying to be. It's the one mechanics say will likely outlast the boat it's bolted to. So there's the list. 5 engines and situations worth thinking twice about. 3 that consistently earn the reputation. The pattern that keeps showing up across all of it isn't really about one bad brand and one good brand. It's about knowing what you're actually buying before you sign the paperwork, because the sticker price is never the real cost of owning an outboard. Which one of these surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this one.